What's up, humans? Welcome to a new Psicoactivo. After Lue Elizondo's Friday appearances on Joe Rogan and News Nation, there were a few other different reactions. These people are Dr. Eric Davis and Dr. James Lacatski. And when I first saw Dr. James Lacatski, I realized that he's one of the people who knows the most about the topic, who are trying to get disclosure. But I also realized that he doesn't want full disclosure, as maybe Lue or other people who work with him do. I don't know what he saw, but in his book written with George Knapp about, it's like a continuation of Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, he speaks about entering a craft, the interior of a craft, that the program has under their possession.
Is you're officially allowed to tell us that the United States government has in its possession a craft of unknown origin and you are able to access the inside. Is that correct?
The wording that you read is correct. You're going beyond the wording.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you, did that meeting happen? And is it true? And it's true.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so you're telling us, you told us, because you were allowed to tell us, that our government has a UFO in its possession and has been able to access the inside of it, right?
Yes.
And this makes me immediately realize that if he was already inside of a craft, as he wrote in his book, that means that he's part of the program. And that means that if some narrative contrary to what he's been told to put out comes out, he's obviously going to contradict it. So, I guess this is what Lue Elizondo is doing, because Lue is trying to get disclosure completely for the people. At least that's what I feel he's trying to do. And there are so many inconsistencies in this whole relationship between people involved that debunkers and people who don't like Lue Elizondo are having a field day talking about this, because that gives them enough credence, at least they think so, to say everything is BS. And that is not the case. The case is that there are disagreements because, and this is my interpretation of things, I feel like Dr. Lacatski and Dr. Davis are not being allowed to confirm anything Lue says for whatever reason. And that's the reason they're coming out with statements that completely contradict Lue. Here's a Facebook comment from Eric Davis. It says, Lue never worked for the AATIP/AAWSAP. He was also not in a support role to the DIA program manager, Jim Lacatski. Jay Stratton did provide support to Lacatski, while Lue provided some support to the UAPTF when Jay was its director. And then somebody asked Davis, so is he lying or just embellishing? And then Davis said, embellishing. This contradicts some of what Lue Elizondo is saying. But Lue wanted to come out to respond to Davis and to this statement from Jim Lacatski that goes like this. I was the sole program manager for the complete duration of DIA's AAWSAP, September 2008 to December 2010, and worked alongside DHS and the follow-on Cono Blue program through 2011. Lue Elizondo was not involved in either AAWSAP or Cono Blue. So, Lue has never said that. He said that he was involved in AATIP. And AATIP is a program that was originated from the Pentagon with some people from AAWSAP. But AATIP was different. So that's where the confusion lies. And Lue was on Coast to Coast with George Knapp to clarify things. Here's Lue.
Let's talk AATIP versus AAWSAP. So, the New York Times story was very important, but it got a couple things wrong. The $22 million that was supposedly went to AATIP was AAWSAP money. And there's a lot of blurring of the lines, in part because some of the people who worked for AAWSAP, that contractor effort under DIA, also helped you in what became AATIP later. lot of confusion there, including even just as recently as today, about who did what and what happened, and whether or not there's all this competition between the guys who had different jobs. You, Jim Lacatski, Jay Stratton. Can you sort of help us sort of separate wheat from chaff on all that confusion?
George, these guys are all great guys. Jim Lacatski is again, he's a national hero. What he was able to do was incredible. And Jay Stratton too was able to do. I mean, he became the first UAP task force director. So these men have done great things for their countries, and both AAWSAP and AATIP owe their existence to them. But there are, it is a blurry line, because elements of AAWSAP later transformed into AATIP, the formal program that was run not out of DIA, but out of the Pentagon, where I was at. And there's where things get blurry, because not everybody in AAWSAP was part of that formalized effort later on. And so it's understandable to me that there's some confusion. Look, the reality here is we're all working towards the same thing, man. It's all about disclosure, right? And put egos aside and all that nonsense, because at the end of the day, we're one team, one fight. And it's about getting the job done, getting Congress informed, getting the American people the information they deserve, right? And getting the government to work as it's supposed to work. I don't like to get into the trenches of the he said, she said. It's silly. I don't think it's constructive. And at the end of the day, everybody deserves credit. Everybody has done a tremendous job. The folks at AAWSAP, the scientists there and the folks over with Bigelow, they did an incredible job. Bigelow paid for a lot of this stuff himself. People don't know that. I mean, this guy's a patriot. I mean, he spent his own money fronting a lot of the bill for the government's efforts. There's a lot of good people. Colin Kelleher, Jacques Vallée. I mean, all these folks did incredible work for the government. So, I don't like to get into the he said, she said, because I'm not sure it's necessarily constructive. Well,
here's the thing. Here's one I think could be constructive. And as recently as today, this is floating around all over the place. You and I have exchanged some information about it. Dr. James Lacatski answered an email. Some news organization asked him for a photo, and along the way they said something about AAWSAP that he corrected, that it seemed like the questioner got it wrong, and he just corrected him, but he didn't want to give a comment. They used his comments anyway, and it sounds like he's coming after you. I'm telling you, he was not coming after you. He was not. He was just pointing out you weren't really a big part of AAWSAP. You were invited to be part of it, and if it had survived, you would have been part of it. But he was just clarifying that, and it sounds like he's attacking.
No, I was not part of AAWSAP. I made it very clear in my book. In fact,
right.
Jim was one of the founders and creators of that. The guy deserves enormous credit for that. He really does. There would not be an AATIP had there not been Jim Lacatski or an AAWSAP. And I don't take anything personally. I know Jim very well. He's a highly intelligent man. I don't know the nuances of what happened, but like I said, man, it's. I don't pay attention to the drama, anyways. Jim's a great guy. I'm sure if he had a problem, he'd probably let me know. So just like I would him.
If the Schumer amendment gets passed this time around, and who knows? I mean, some really powerful forces assembled to try to defeat it the last time and bottle it up. If it somehow gets through this time, are you confident at all? We got about a minute left, in fact. Are you confident that they will be able to find the stuff they want to find, that the goodies?
I think people will be able to help them for sure. I think part of this is trying to get some of the right people who've been part of some of these historical programs to come forward and speak directly to Congress.
And protect them.
Without fear of retribution, without fear of having any type of, negative action taken against them. Look, people have seen what happened to Dave Grush, myself, and many others, and they're concerned, right? And they're not going to come out unless there is unequivocal protection for them. And so we are working very, very hard to give them that protection. Unfortunately, there are some arguments against some of the pieces of the legislation. I don't want to get into that here, and that might be justified. I don't know. I mean, there's some portions there that are rubbing some people the wrong way, but I think overall the legislation it must go forward. I think the legislation is a good idea, and I think it does a lot of the things that we needed to do. And if there is a portion there that rubs somebody the wrong way, then my recommendation would be to address just that portion. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. But that's my perception. I could be wrong, but that's what I would do.
Lue Elizondo, I've only got 4,000 more questions. I don't think we're going to get them in the next 15 seconds, so we'll have to do this again sometime. Imminent is the book, Inside the Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs. It's a great read. I really enjoyed it, and I wish you success and hope that people get off your back a little bit. George, it is always my honor and privilege to be here with you and your wonderful audience, and I hope to speak to you all again someday very soon. All right, thanks.
And then the reason that I am telling you guys that this Dr. Lacatski is one of the gatekeepers, and I stand by this. I'm not saying he's part of the people who have committed crimes. I'm just saying that I can tell that he doesn't want everything out, and he's going to do whatever it takes to stop information that he considers is not shareable. And he has the power to stop things because he has the highest authority amongst everybody in this group. So that's what I think is happening. But I want you guys to let me know what you think is happening. I'm going to leave you another clip from that Coast to Coast interview where George Knapp says why there will probably never be disclosure. And this ties into the attitude that James Lacatski and Eric Davis are putting out with these statements. So here's another part of the conversation between George Knapp and Lue Elizondo about disclosure. Here it is.
Time ago, and I understand people's frustration, but if you look at the recent history over the last 7 years, we went from no acknowledgement to now the government not only acknowledging it, but creating organizations like AAWSAP, I don't even want to pretend to pronounce it, and later on, which turned into the AARO, and of course, before that, the UAP task force with one of my colleagues, Jay Stratton, led as the first UAP task force director. The government is responding, and now you have this landmark legislation that has already been, some of it's already been passed in the last couple of years, which was, incredible milestone to begin with. And now you have more that's being proposed that's about to hit the floor to be voted on. I mean, this is seismic, guys. This is huge. I don't know, what more you need to say, yeah, this thing is real and the government's finally taking it seriously. Now, are we doing as much as we should be doing about it? Absolutely not. And I'm not saying we are. But what I am saying is that we have come a long way in this conversation in just the last 6 years. In fact, I may argue we have come farther in the last 6 years than we have in the last 60 years with regard to disclosure. Now, that's my opinion, but that's my perspective.
Well, I agree. I mean, I've been chasing this stuff for a long time. I never thought I would see this level of change in the topic or it being taken seriously by mainstream media, by Congress, by academic institutions and scientists. It's an amazing transformation. But, for a lot of people, it's never going to be enough until somebody comes forward and admits, yeah, we've been lying. Yes, we've got crash saucers. We've got alien bodies. Thank you and good night kind of a thing, which I'm telling you, I don't think that is ever going to happen. Not willingly. I don't think they're ever going to disclose this unless they're dragged kicking and screaming into doing it.
Or George, something happens that forces the conversation, right? An event occurs. So that was one of my concerns and some of my colleagues back in the Pentagon was, look, what if the decision is made for us? What if an event occurs where now all of a sudden the reality is thrust upon everybody to acknowledge and recognize, now what's going to be the excuse? Oh, gee, yeah, maybe we should have told you guys a little earlier. So you're right. And that's what I would call, and my colleagues call the term catastrophic disclosure. I don't think anybody wants catastrophic disclosure. I think most of us want voluntary disclosure.
Well, I want to talk about why they don't make that kind of an unavoidable, undeniable demonstration of some sort. We're going to get into that and what their long-term agenda might be in our next segment. We're going to use some songs in this hour from Lue's home state. A little old band from Texas starts us off.
So yeah, what do you guys think about that? There's also another aspect of this that I don't think is being talked about enough. Mr. Stephen Greenstreet is talking about it a little bit, but he's being criticized for it because everything he says now from the people at the disclosure movement is regarded as bunk or lies, because they consider him one of the leading debunkers who has a major platform and doesn't have the best intentions. They are well within their right to think so. All I'm saying is that some of the stuff he has reported on is accurate. There is like a rift between people. Lue wouldn't have said that he doesn't care about the drama and that he thinks that they're all on the same boat fighting towards the same goal if nothing was happening. So something is definitely happening. My question is, what is happening? Is there anybody else above them involved in this? I can say a couple of things of this without revealing too much. There is a name that is involved with all of these people, but specifically with Jay Stratton and Lue Elizondo, who is regarded right now as someone who could potentially really help the movement, really help move the ball forward. This person is not what he seems to be. He's actually not done very well towards some of these people, because this person has controlled the narrative in many ways and the IP. So that's about as far as I can go. I think we're gonna get to know a lot more information in the coming months about this person, and someone is not gonna be happy out of all this group. Someone is not gonna be happy that this information comes out, but it needs to come out because I think it's a major part of the puzzle that nobody's talking about, and it is, to me, one of the main reasons that all of this drama is happening. And it's so stupid because it doesn't really have to do with disclosure. It has to do with controlling people that are trying to get disclosure. At the end of the day, it's about following the money, which is what doesn't sit well for me from the start. I think that this topic in general could do with a lot less people who are corrupted by money and by power. There's a lot of them out there. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I really highly doubt Lue Elizondo has this goal in mind to become filthy rich like others have done. So far, everything that I've seen him do or say hasn't been in that vein. I have seen him try to defend himself from attacks and perhaps make some terrible decisions in light of these attacks. And I think that's a mistake that Lue is going to have to correct eventually. And he's going to have to address a big elephant in the room eventually. But in terms of disclosure and what he's trying to do to get the truth out, I think that he is honest about it. And I think that there's a lot of people preventing him from doing that because of money and IP and contracts and all that shit. And I fear that Lue doesn't realize that people have around him have interests that are not his own. They don't align with his interests. And the sooner he realizes that, the faster and easier that it's going to be for him to start defending himself properly from people who want to hurt him. And I don't think Lue is the only one with good intentions within this group. There's a lot of people who have good intentions. Even those who are after the money, I think that in some way they believe they're doing good, but they have to realize that withholding information, withholding exclusives, and a topic that is so sensitive is always going to be criticized and is always going to backfire. If you don't realize this, you're the ones that are going to get burned. So if I was you, I would try to get on the same page with the people who are actually trying to get to the truth. Because at the end of the day, you're the ones who are gonna lose, because the truth always comes out. That's just my opinion. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about these agreements between Lue and Lacatski and Davis. Why do you think they came out to say this? Do you agree with me that maybe they were told to deny Lue Elizondo's claims from his book and his 2 interviews? Let me know in the comments. And if you like the content you see, please like, share, comment, subscribe. I'm going to leave a couple of links in the description if you want to support the channel in any other way. Those links will do the job. Some of them are donations. Some of them are for you to get yourself something. And there's another Amazon wish list there that some things that the podcast still needs to improve. So yeah, let me know. I'll be watching you guys in the comments. Until tomorrow, I'll see you guys later. Bye.